Works Committee meeting for June 29th. Need a motion to approve the minutes of last meeting. Mr. Conover, Ms. Wood. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved. All right. I'll turn to you, Jeff, for the agenda. I don't see...
Okay. We're expecting Pam Moran from First Wilderness.
Right. So we can... She's not
we'll
here.
Move on with...
Yep.
We have Justin Gagnon here from the railroad for an update.
Good morning, everybody. So we'll just start off with an update of the two station projects that we've been working on, Thurman and Hadley. If any of you have had an opportunity to drive by Thurman Station in the last week, you'll notice that we have moved the caboose from Riparius to its new location on the platform in Thurman. And we'll be working this week to do some cosmetic adjustments, painting the outside, and moving all of the equipment back into it. And hopefully, as long as we can maintain the schedule for the Department of Health inspection, the caboose will be open up this Friday. Hadley Station, we have been down there. We've done some grounds work. We planted some apple trees, put up a fence line, mowed the lawns, moved some of the furniture into the station. We still have a couple more pieces that are being refinished. And we put in the foundations for the lamp posts, which are also being constructed. Those should be up in the next 2 weeks. As far as our summer agenda, everything is on track. No pun intended. The Saratoga train will feature 2 dome cars this year as opposed to only 1 in previous years. We'll be receiving 2 new locomotives in the next week or so. They're former Amtrak units. The designation is an Electromotive Division F40PH. These locomotives are equipped with 800 kilowatt onboard head-end power generators to provide power to the trains. Certainly a good upgrade in power for us, and like I said, they'll be here in the next week or so, probably be in service by the end of July. Up until then, we'll have our regular power that we've been using. The North End Local will feature an increase in seating. We'll be starting off with 2 coaches, which will have a capacity of 160 passengers for each train, and we have enough coaches on hand to add another 130 seats to either the Saratoga or the North End Local train as required. As far as marketing, you're going to start seeing the Saratoga North Creek logo everywhere. We're having a huge marketing push. Part of that is going to start in July with the program that we ran last year, which was very popular for our Polar Express. It's a Christmas in July themed thing. We also have a staff member in the Lake George tourism office, right up in the outlets. I thank everybody again who helped pull that together. Other than that, we're just very, very busy. We've got 4 more days, and our summer schedule starts this Friday. So that's about all that. Oh, and freight update. We held 1,000 tons of stone down from Tahaz on Thursday. We have 10 more cars up there being loaded right now. We'll be bringing them down later on this week or early next week, and then we'll be bringing up cars for another 1,000 tons to be loaded and brought down and interchanged and on its way to Taunton, Massachusetts. So that is all I have.
Anyone have any questions for the committee? Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff, we'll move into your agenda.
Next on the agenda, I have Mr. Ed Zipro. He just stepped out, so we can come back to him when he comes back in the room from the Warrensburg Bike Rally. The first 3 action items are all annual renewals for our snowmobile trails. You'll see on page 3, we have a request to renew. Page 6 is another one for Lime Adirondack. And then we have our agreement with the City of Glens Falls and South Warren Snowmobile Club for renewal of the contract with them for snowmobile trails. No change to our existing terms. These are annual renewals that we do each spring.
I'd move all three.
Move all three, Mr. Taylor, second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
And, page 10 is a donation from the Northern, it's a letter from the Northern Trust Company, but this is a donation from Daniel Lewis. He is a local resident, lives across the road from Up Yonder Farm, and has been consistent supporter, and so the resolution would, request would be to accept his donation to Up Yonder Farm.
Mr. Conover? Ms. Wood? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed.
Mr. Chairman, I assume we'll follow
The
on
letter.
that with a nice thank you letter.
Yes, if, I think in the past we've had that come from the chairman of the board, so we'll do that. And that's all I have for, Parks and Rec, pending the discussion from Pam Warren and from Ed Zipro when they come back in, if we wanna move on to DPW
Okay.
items.
We'll move on to DPW, we'll come back to them.
Okay, the first, item on the DPW agenda is a request to, reimburse for job-related courses. This is, my timekeeper and, payroll person who, has been taking courses, and this is a request I should have brought earlier this spring, but it slipped through the cracks on my desk. So this is a request to reimburse, per county policy, the 50% of her tuition, paid for accounting courses at ACC.
Mr. Vanslo, did you?
Well, I was just gonna move, the first two items.
Okay. You wanna move the first two items?
Yeah.
Ms. Wood, you second that? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Passed.
Okay, the next one is on, page 5. This is a transfer request, moving some funds from 2 road projects into the Trout Lake Road project. Again, this is our typical, as we finish up projects, based on the actual need in the field, we will, roll that money forward into other projects where we need to expand the scope or extend the projects further than originally estimated.
Taylor? Mr. Vanslo? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Okay, starting on page 6 is really just a FYI for the committee. I have 3 pending vacant positions awaiting approval, and haven't talked with the county administrator or budget officer on these, but these are 3 highway positions, and we are kind of in a critical point here. So I wanna make the committee aware that those, I'm anticipating approval of those, but that is in the works as we speak. On the next, any questions on those?
Mr. Chairman, go
If it turns out that the budget officer and myself both agree, you would still need committee approval, so if we don't get the committee approval, at least contingency at this point, you'd have to wait a month, and you just said they were critical, so I don't know if you could wait a month?
I would like to, fill them as soon as possible.
How about we make a motion to fill them,
Contingent on approval?
approval now until further approved by the budget officer administrator. That agreeable, everybody? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Yeah, just so the committee understands, we have, as you know, we stand up a paving crew and we stand up a bridge crew, each summer. The bridge crew has gone through our initial, cleaning of bridges and sealing of concrete bridges. We do that for every appropriate bridge. They're moving into repair work. But as of right now, with our shortages, I've suspended work of the bridge crew right now because we've had to send those members back to our highway, crews. And, you know, frankly, we are having some difficulty with, recruiting, and I think part of it is a function of our economy improving. And, we've had to repost some positions, even a position that's already been approved. We've had, MEO Light, which is an MEO, it's an entry-level position. I think the starting pay rate is somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 or $13 an hour. We're really struggling recruiting, young CDL holders, into the department. So certainly if anyone knows of, young CDL operators, that are looking for full-time employment, certainly refer them to me. And, and so we can keep that kind of new blood coming into the department. We've lost, one of these vacancies, we lost, one of our employees who jumped over to a town highway, department that, you know, basically, just by making that move, he got an instantaneous $3 an hour raise, and he's anticipating another $2 an hour raise, next year. So that's, we're having trouble retaining our really good operators that, have connections in some of the other departments. And, so our challenge is to bring in those new guys, train them in-house. We have a pretty good training program for the one-person plowing and for our equipment training. But I need as many referrals as possible, for anyone that you think might be interested in working at DPW.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure, Jeff, you might have had another meeting, but when we talk about young, we don't mean that we wouldn't employ somebody. I think you were just referring that you have a good training program, so you're certainly interested in people that are inexperienced, but we certainly would take any age, any experience that we can get in the department.
I appreciate you clarifying that. The meaning really is, you know, frankly, we brought on some very experienced operators over the last few years, in part because the economy has turned down. We're having trouble finding the experienced guys, so, yes, you're right. I don't mean young, I mean basically entry-level guys with really any level of experience we'd be interested in talking to.
Right, so people who don't have the experience shouldn't shy away from coming to you, but we certainly want older, experienced people as well.
The most experienced as possible.
Okay.
But and with that, we will train them, as necessary, so thank you, Paul.
Thank you for that update. All right. What are we moving on now?
That's it for the action items, and then we have, under the referral items, this has been a pending item for some time. This kind of speaks to what I discussed a little bit last month with, the federal aid projects. A lot of the progress is somewhat out of our control. We're still waiting on a change of the scope of work. Again, the delay has not been in our office, but the minute I get that, I'd like to be able to move that forward, possibly with an out of committee. So this is just a heads up for the committee. Do we want to, Mr. Zipro is back in the room here, so we can give him a chance. I think he'd like to address the committee. Mr. Zipro is the coordinator for and owner, I guess, of the Warrensburg Bike Rally.
Good morning. I don't know if it needs a mic or not, but I'll use it. I think my voice is loud enough, but we had a great rally. First of all, I want to thank a few people that are very helpful in giving us some guidance. One is Kevin Gary out of Warrensburg, and then Jeff and Kevin from the highway department, as well as Tim, who is at the park, who does a great job of getting the park ready for us, all open and working. The rally this year was probably the biggest ever. We had more vendors, more attendees. We had entertainment, we had music. We even had a helicopter giving rides on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The rain didn't hurt us, even though we had 3 days of rain. We had better than 2,000 bikes and cars there every day during the rain. The total for this year was like, I don't know what's even working. Anyway, with the attendance we had, it was probably better than 5,800 cars and bikes and trucks a day there. So we had probably a 20% increase of the whole rally, and we're looking for even bigger and better for next year. We've got more ideas on the market. If any of the towns want to get involved with something they have to have me get on the website that would help bring bikers to their towns, please give me a call. Okay, that's about it.
Any questions? Thank you for coming.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I'll just note that we have a multi-year agreement with Mr. Zipro. I think that's in place for a few more years before it would require renewal. So we would anticipate he would be back to the fairgrounds again that first week of June in 2016. Okay, the next item for discussion is regarding food vendor requests to operate on right-of-way, on county right-of-way. Specifically, we have one request from a company called Dog and Pup, and we have Patrick Eldridge who represents that business. And just briefly, he had requested probably about a month ago placement of his hot dog cart on a parking area right off of exit 24 on the corner of, Schroon River Road and, County Route 11. There's a parking area there, a gravel parking area that is used by some commuters, and, people stop there on occasion on their way across the mountain into Bolton. But he had requested to be able to place a vendor cart, there and sell hot dogs a few days a week. What I explained to Mr. Eldridge is that that would be kind of a new territory. We do have, agreements with businesses when they operate within adjacent right-of-way. For instance, we have, the Cooper's Cave, Brew and Ice Cream, establishment along the bike path in the city of Glens Falls. We've had a long-standing agreement with them where they actually extended a patio, an outdoor patio area onto the right-of-way. But they are an adjacent property to the right-of-way. What we're talking about now would be, that his request would be to allow kind of that transient vendor on right-of-way. So I thought it important, I talked it over with the county attorney, and, this is certainly doable, but this would be a step forward into a new policy, that we don't have similar arrangements anywhere. We certainly have other, right-of-way areas that would accommodate vendors. So I think it's a bigger discussion as far as how we wanna handle it, because I think it would likely result in additional requests, over the coming years. And, Mr. Eldridge is here, I don't know, sir, do you wanna address the committee at all, or tell them a little bit about your business and your intent?
Well, it's, what I have is a hot dog cart, like you explained, and one you stand behind, not a trailer, and it's not enclosed. It's a walk behind you, and it's got the umbrella in, like that. And, right now, I'm up to, Oscars in Warrensburg, weekends. I've been here since last summer. And people really enjoy it up there. They tell us all the time, it's a great idea, Nice to do, but, I just thought that there might be a good location up here as well. And I have all the insurances, and, I'm inspected by the health department, and, I have everything that I need, as far as the state goes. And, I guess that's about it.
I should also note that the parcel, the right-of-way parcel is county highway right-of-way, but it's located within the town of Warrensburg. I understand that, Mr. Eldridge has a permit to operate his cart within the town of Warrensburg, but I haven't spoken with the town directly on that other location, see if they had any input.
I was gonna see if Kevin had, do you have any comment on that, Kevin?
No, I mean, Pat's worked with us before in different locations, and, it's sort of like what you got when you get off the, Northway to go to Lake Placid. People used to be in their rest area up there, and I'm sure it's formidable, and I would say give them a shot.
Well, the town of Lake Luzerne has that same thing. We have one hot dog cart in our town, which has been there many years, no trouble, and they do get a permit from the town, and they do pay a, peddler's fee. So that's what we have, and it's worked really well. It keeps, somebody else wanna pop up down the road, so we can control how many are in or how many out, so I don't know if the county wants to get involved in it. I have no, against it. Mr. Conover?
I would say, given, that the peddler regulations might vary from municipality to municipality, and also involve zoning and other types of issues, that, as a general rule, I don't think it's a good policy to be promoting this within the county right-of-ways or on county properties. However, if the municipality, if it's something that the municipality at least has no objection to, or is, or would like to see happen, that, as they say, might be a horse of a different color. That might be something that, whereas the application then would come to us via the municipality as opposed to, from individual peddlers. Tomorrow we could get 100, right? Then we gotta try to sort out what's the local feeling on this and what's this, but if it comes through the municipality, I think that that's the better way to handle this. If any particular town, feels that that's something that they wanna promote within their town, I think it's a good idea, and the business community is supportive of that, et cetera, then, perhaps we should consider it. But I'd rather it come that way than, public to public, as opposed to, as a private application. That way we know that the local attorneys looked at it, the local town boards looked at it, it meets the local regulations, it meets the local zoning, it meets everything that it needs to meet at the local level. By the time it comes to us, it's simply a question of, do we want to allow that? Is there sufficient land area, and do we want to allow that within our right-of-way? It's simply a land question at that point.
Mr. Taylor, did you have your hand up?
Well, I agree with Ron. I think that it should rest with the towns and let them control, who they allow to set up a vending station. One of the things that I'm sure Rachel would be concerned about is people setting up fireworks stations and having to get into the hassle of that. I think the town is the place to go.
I would make a motion that we go ahead and approve this one and somehow indicate for the future, I don't know the proper ways to do it, but so that if anybody wants to do this in the future, it goes through the town first and then comes to the county. I don't know if we send a letter to the towns or something to that effect, but we've heard from Warrensburg here today. Obviously, they have no issue with it, so I would think that it would be fine to approve it today if the board so desired, and then in the future have it come up through the towns. I think Supervisor Conover makes it good.
Any comment on that?
No, I think Jeff could implement that as his policy, that he doesn't even bring it to your committee until it's gone through the towns.
I think, everybody in favor of, yes, do you have a question on that?
Well, yes, as we all know, Luzerne is a one hot dog cart town. Is there any liability to the county, especially where, I mean, I've had the gentleman's hot dogs, they're very good, he's got a nice little setup, but where you place it on these lots, I mean, is there a certain amount of setback where it has to be? Is there certain places that they have to be? And is there any liability if something happens to the county?
Well, in our town, they have to have the health permit and they have to have insurance holding the town.
So there would be no liability to the county?
In my discussions with Martin on it, you know, I think we would handle it similar to the other vendors we have operating in county right away. They have agreements with the county, they indemnify the county on their insurance, so that would be an additional burden to them. And then on those other ones, there is a fee at the county level. Cooper's Cave pays $175 per year for locating on the right of way, and that is really minor revenue into the Parks and Recs division, but it does cover at least our time and our expense, and it makes it, you know, so the vendors are committed. They operate from early spring to fall, and I know they put heaters out on the thing, so that's their rate for basically a 3-season operation of $175 per year. So I think we would want in those procedures that I can draft and I can get the assistance of Martin on. You know, we would want as you stated, the town approvals. We would want the safety review within my department to determine whether it's an appropriate use of space, because there's certainly areas of right-of-way that are too close to the road. They might be enough space to place a cart, but they might not be a good placement based on the highway safety needs. So that review would occur in my office. We would establish an agreement, establish the insurance. We could, whether or not they come back through committee, you know, would be, I guess, up to the committee. I think our intent would, most of those locations would have one vendor. We wouldn't want, you know, a little carnival set up down in the parking lot either. So it would be kind of first come, first serve. And so we could manage that in-house. And then the other thing, I guess, just throwing out there is, do we want to charge a nominal fee, annual fee? You know, I think I need input from the committee on that particular item, certainly, because we don't have a fee structure for this type of thing. They've been on a case-by-case basis, you know, for instance, like with the Cooper's Cave people, they pay $175 a year. I don't know if that, but they have a permanent structure on that, on the right-of-way too, that they will remove if we need to, but they've actually constructed something. I think Mr. Eldridge, in my discussions with him, had talked about doing a few days a week, that it wouldn't be a permanent thing there. He'd bring it in, operate for a day, and then leave, and not leave anything on site.
Any suggestions from the committee?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that some thought should be given to, a fee structure. I'm not sure I agree, it should be nominal, but then again, maybe that's worked into the town fee for the concession as well. You have fixed base operators that are in the food business that, you know, that we also need to be thinking about here as well. I mean, this is I don't think I'm saying anything that everyone's not already aware of in many different ways at many different times. This can become a very complicated matter, and I think that we should be careful.
Careful with it.
How we open up the public right-of-way, especially the county right-of-way and county properties, to more transient food concessions. And you're absolutely right. Is it first come, first served? Is there some type of bidding process for premium locations? I mean, even after the municipality says, yeah, no, we have no objection, assuming a municipality would say that, this can become a very complicated.
Kevin, could I ask if your town charges a vendor's permit?
Yeah.
Can I ask how much?
For the permit, it's 25.
25 one. I forget. I don't get it.
Sorry.
$25.
That was.
I have a copy of your liquid license.
Well, would the committee agree to, just a nominal fee to get this started? And, you know, because today's already the end of the month almost, and if they're gonna do anything, he needs July and August. So, would you consider the nominal fee of $25 that they pay?
We can certainly revisit this.
And then revisit it, as the, you know, before it occurs again?
So, just to be clear, the committee's authorizing an agreement, you know, that I'll generate with, county attorney, would this be an agreement that would be required the chairman's signature? Or would this be by permit? We could do it by permit. We certainly have, policies and procedures in place on county right-of-way permits, so this would just be a new type of permit that the board could, delegate to me, or we could keep it at the committee level at this point until this develops and we see how far. I certainly don't want additional authority and responsibility when it comes to that.
Yeah. I think my only opinion is personally that Jeff has to pick the spot on that county property where it goes, and it can't be changed. You know, so you know where ingress and egress, enough cars to be able to park there, you know, and not cause anything off, you know, right close to the road. And they would have to agree to keep it in that same spot each time.
Well,
So,
and
you know, things like that, we gotta come up with a.
And
a
we've
little-
already, I mean, we do a lot of these types of permits where we put special conditions on, so I would anticipate that we would require Mr. Eldridge to have his own trash receptacle and to take the trash when he leaves, so that we don't create an additional maintenance burden on these properties. And essentially, right now, we just go and mow occasionally, and, you know, if somebody throws a garbage bag there or something, we take care of it, but we don't wanna create an issue where we've gotta start visiting the site on a regular basis to remove trash. So I think there's a lot of those operational terms that we can work into some agreement. Whether it's the chairman for signature, that's fine at this stage, and then we can set the $25 fee. I'll work with the county attorney on the other legal terms necessary, but I think we can execute that. We can get something in place pretty quickly to get, some hot dogs sold up there as soon as possible.
Is it the committee?
But again, there are all different types of vendors. There's all different types of vendors. There's hot dog vendors, there's t-shirt vendors. There are vendors to sell produce. There are vendors to sell seafood out of refrigerated trucks. There are all kinds of vendors. And I think that while we may not have a specific objection to this particular item, this particular location, especially if it has municipal support, I think that the broader policy, I think, needs a lot more thought. I'm very concerned. Now we're gonna, we're gonna put ourselves where we're effectively, through our policy, establishing land use controls in municipalities within the county right-of-way. I mean, we don't even know, I have concerns.
Any other comments? Anyone like to move the motion to move ahead with what we've discussed at this one, how can we use the
I
one
think call it
time
a trial.
trial, one-time, position for this gentleman, and then by the time next year comes or another event comes up, we should have more policy in place, something.
I'll move that.
Evelyn? Mr. Vanslo, did you second it? Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. All right, you'll have to get with Jeff and work on that. Thank you. All right, Jeff.
Thank you. The, next item for discussion is, and really just information of the committee, is, we have started, using an auction service called Gov Deals, and I think some of the other local municipalities have used them as well. We're using their services through the, NJPA, which is a national, purchasing authority. So in coordination through, Julie Butler, our purchasing agent, that is a contract established at the national level that we have authority to jump onto. So I just wanted to make sure the committee was aware that we've done that, and we've actually started some of the auctioning of some of our older nurses' vehicles to get rid of the inventory that's up in Warrensburg. Some of which are just salvage value, and others have a little bit of, parts car type value to them. So those auctions are underway. And the last item is just our fuel report, just for informational purposes. Again, we're enjoying some relatively low, fuel costs, which is good for us and good for the 39 or so agencies that operate on, the county fueling system that, my staff administers.
All right, we have privilege of floor. Anybody from floor like to make a comment or say it? Tim?
Jeff, how far down is the fuel from what you budgeted? I mean, what, I'm just, from
We
what it
don't,
would be last year?
you know, frankly, we do like a 5-year trending for, things that are variable like that. But, you know, the fuel cost varies, and we've had years that it has dropped and then raised quickly. And, there are so many factors and variables, whether it's, you know, turmoil in the Middle East, or it's, you know, a refinery or a hurricane or whatever else. So, frankly, I'm not qualified, and there's people that make, 6 figures plus, probably 7 figures, working on the fuel commodities out of New York City. But what we do is we estimate, we do a 5-year trend where we look back at both our usage and our anticipated costs. We've enjoyed low fuel prices.
I'm just
I
wondering
don't know.
how much are we saving?
Well, on this analysis, what I do is, and Betsy really administers this for me now, we take a look at what we spent so far this year, and then what our historical usage has been by gallon going for the rest of the year, and we apply our current price. And then we project from that whether we're running behind or running ahead. And, you know, right now, if you look on, page 9, you know, you can see, our projected expense, and if we hold at our current rate and our current usage, we've got significant savings in that budget code. You know, we're running, right now, if everything stays the same, our usage remains the same, meaning we don't have any major storm events, we don't have any major increase in usage for some unanticipated event, and our fuel rates stay at our current rates, we're projecting that code to be $150,000 under budget. Now, a lot can change between now and December 31st, and historically, we have other codes that, for instance, our salt budget is running in the negative right now. We do the same anticipated, you know, cost and usage of salt, and we're running in the hole right now where we know that if things don't improve later this year, we're gonna be moving money out of fuel probably into my salt codes. So, this is a tool we use just to make sure we don't get blindsided, you know, in the fall. In the past, this hasn't been done in the past, and what would happen is we would start having emergencies come October, November timeframe where we're really scrambling to move money around. So we try and do a little bit of a predictive, you know, estimate, and Betsy handles these for me on a month-to-month basis, and I'm happy to say that on the fuel side, we're in really good shape, you know, for this point in the year.
Mr. Conover?
Jeff and Paul, there's been, a number of, articles and, we've had a number of meetings, regarding, the newer types of salt. Clear Lane is one product type and the advantages of that product, to public safety and to our waters. Given the lag time that's involved in this, like for example, all municipalities, and I assume the county as well, are ordering their salt, have had to have their orders in for their salt. For this coming year, there's at least a 1-year lag time associated with that. It would be, I think it's important to use this time to put ourselves in a position where we can make some decisions relative to whether we wish to move to the new product, and if so, when, by when, and maybe some equipment modifications that might be required. But also, Paul, when it comes to the reimbursement to the towns, if we're prepared to pay the additional costs associated with the new salt, or some compensation for the new salt, if any, to perhaps encourage towns that may be thinking of moving to this, to move to this product. That formula we would need to know equally in advance of when we need to order for our salt. So I think that, you know, I don't expect it to get into it today, but I think that that highway staff and administration staff need to put this on the agenda to start working this issue. You know, do we move? When do we move? What's the cost of moving? Do we reimburse the towns that wish to move to the new salt? I'm not sure, Paul, when you calculate, because I think the reimbursement to the towns is based on a multi-year average.
Yes.
And I'm not sure when you calculate those averages to establish the reimbursement rate for the towns. I'm not sure what time of the year that is.
Well, if we did something like what you suggest, Supervisor, I think that we would have to probably revise that formula that year to include that additional cost, because it wouldn't, since it's a whole new expense, you couldn't average it out over 5 years. But this is something I certainly will sit down with Jeff, and you know, we can discuss this further and come back with something. And you're right, I think it's going to take some time to get this into place. This also kind of fits nicely in with the shared services concept that we've been talking about too. So we really want to have something like this, if we're going to do it, in place for 2016 or at some point in 2016.
Well, that's an excellent point on the shared services, because the more volume, naturally,
right,
the better the price, and so knowing when, if and when, or when the county was planning to make a move, even if it was in part, even if it wasn't a total move, they may have opportunities in some parts of the county where they have facilities, salt storage facilities they could dedicate for this, whereas in other parts of the county perhaps they don't have comparable facilities to be able to make the move. So it does get a little complicated. Plus they have the equipment side of things in terms of any conversion on equipment.
You've got to think about it, and I agree with you, because it's a costly changeover, especially the smaller towns. I mean, I got one salt building. I'm either going to put that salt in or have all my equipment ready for the other stuff. So there's no two spots.
Right.
So it's one or the other for a lot of little towns, and it's a big expense.
Right, and that's where I think that if we're going to make this shift, those types of issues, I mean, and not that I'm recommending this, I mean, we secured a grant in Bolton to build an additional building because we were part of a pilot, and so we had the opportunity, the advantage of being able to do that, but that doesn't exist in all situations. So this does get a little complicated, and because we're going to make this move, what about the towns? How do they, and their equipment, because after all, they're the ones spreading for the county. I just want to ask, I think the time to start to work this is now, and because there will be at least, as I say, I think we're pretty much out of it for this season. Because I'm assuming you've already made your order, or about to.
Yeah, my understanding is all the salt orders are in. And there are other technologies too, and I don't know that there's, consensus across all of the highway departments in the county, and there's certain advantages of like the hard product, clear lane, versus, a liquid application and a pre-wetting type system that really has, from the studies that I've seen, that's been adopted on a broader basis, you know, at the state level, both in New York and, Massachusetts, and, so we've been, I've had staff working on that since this spring. Our rate, our established rate is a 3-year lagging average, and I think that's, as we've discussed in the past, that's fair to the towns, and that there is some variation with season. And one of the challenges is, though, that we don't in our current agreements dictate the product to be used. We basically leave it up to the towns on how they're going to manage the county roads that they're paid on that rate. We know what our cost would be to maintain the roads, and we pay them that same rate, you know, based on our costs that are generated on, you know, salt only. There's a little bit of, information out there that some of your costs actually go down by going to, a more expensive product, but a more effective product. In the clear lane, both the clear lane, vendors and also some of the pre-wetting systems with, the Magic, Liquid Magic, or even, Liquid or Magic Salt, where they predict, decreases in expenses. But I think one of the things that's underway now, and I know, Lake George, Lake Champlain Regional Planning Board is working on getting all of the towns really through a baseline improvement to their equipment, because one of the challenges for towns that don't have equipment that measures their application rate is we can throw new material at it, but if they're not applying it at a proper and consistent rate, you're really just throwing, good money after bad. And to have an effective program, they are working on some grants, and they're actually discussing bringing on a highway professional, like one of our recent retirees or someone with practical experience in snow and ice operations, to basically leapfrog among the town highway departments, help them establish policies that set their normal application rates. Also help them, do the cirrus controls and the velocity controls, where you can monitor the exact pounds per lane mile that you're putting down, and those controls are an additional expense, but no matter what we apply to the roads, those are a critical piece. Some of the towns don't have those. They rely on an operator looking in the rearview mirror and whether they can see enough or they can't see enough, and that's really how elaborate a lot of the town operations are now. So I would recommend the focus on that. We're actually looking at some of the equipment on the pre-wetting systems. It's not that expensive to equip new trucks with it and try that out. And that's what we're anticipating, being able to try one of the pre-wetting systems and maybe assign that truck into Lake George Basin, perhaps some of our Tony Pitt routes that are in Lake George, and then we also have other routes that are in other sections that out of our south end crew that run up Bay Road, and they certainly end up in Lake George, so we can try those in some of the more sensitive areas. We can give the crew some chance to try those, and then use that data and the good data that we get from our cirrus controls to really know, okay, for the last 8 years since we've had cirrus controls on our trucks, we've used this much per lane mile on that route. We switched to this other system, and now we know we use that lower amount, and then that can go into the calculation as to whether there's there's actually a monetary savings as predicted by the vendors, and then also is there a savings in the actual material that's being placed on the road, and therefore hopefully there's a reciprocal reduction in the actual concentrations of our sodium contents and stuff that they're measuring in the lake.
I like that approach. I like that idea because like for example in Bolton, and it would relate to Chester, possibly Warrensburg as well. You have Riverbank Road and you have River Road, for example, that are difficult roads under any circumstance, and that might make for an excellent pilot. And on the reverse run, you could actually, if you wanted to, you could pick up material in Bolton as well. We could work an arrangement. We'll pick up the material in Bolton, and perhaps there might be examples elsewhere around the county where, we could do these pilots and then, and have a better feel for, what we can do and how quickly we can move.
So I think just generally, those improvements are underway at really the policy and the control, the application control level, and then the conversation regarding materials and experimenting with materials, I think, can continue and you know, into this, hopefully we can implement something this year, and I can report to the committee on how we're proceeding there and what we're seeing.
All right, anything else?
I did-
Motion adjourned?
If anybody didn't get the photos, I do have some paving photos from some of our projects so far this year.
All right, it was from Bud and Mr. Vanslo, we're adjourned.
When,